Hello, my name is Louisa Moss and you're very welcome to Off the Record on Dublin City 103.2 FM. Every week I invite a guest onto the show to choose 8 great tracks and we use those songs to illustrate their story. My guest today is a talented musician. She's a singer-songwriter, formerly lead singer with Session Mots. She also has the same surname as me, but I promise you we're no relation. Unfortunately, so I think I'd quite like to be related to you. She now heads up the band Keeley and also maintains a blog called The Keeley Chronicles, which covers the story of Inga Maria Hauser, who disappeared in Larne in the north of Ireland. A very warm welcome to Keeley Moss. I'm delighted to have you here on Off the Record today.
Hello, Louisa. Thanks for having me.
It's really lovely to have you here. We're going to go straight into your first track, which is Apples and Oranges by Pink Floyd.
This is Apples and Oranges and it's RS1.
Got a flip-top, stack of cigarettes in the pocket, feeling good at the top, shopping at shops. She's walking in the sunshine town, feeling very cool. At the butchers and the bakers and the supermarket stores, getting everything she wants from the supermarket store. Oranges, apples and oranges. Cornering neatly, she trips up sweetly to meet the people. She's on time again, and then I catch her by the eye, then I stop and have to think what a funny thing to do, cause I'm feeling very big. Apples and oranges, apples and oranges. My love, she loves me.
And that was Pink Floyd, Apples and Oranges, and one of the final songs written by Syd Barrett. So there you go. I could see you really love Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, getting to hear a song of that that particular song is very, very rarely heard. It's anytime I've ever heard it. The only times I've ever heard it on radio were the times that I actually chose it to be played on a show. So it's lovely to get it, to have it aired. It's a fascinating song, a real mishmash of ideas, and it's just when Syd Barrett's time in the Floyd was coming to an end and things were very much fragmenting behind the scenes. But I think artistically, he was at a real zenith of his creativity, and yeah, you can hear it in the recording. It's just a fascinating amalgam of strange sounds and kind of off-kilter kind of lyrics, and yeah, and a nod to Mr. Hendrix and the kind of wah-wah guitar as well.
Yeah, but you weren't born in the 60s.
No, I
obviously.
wasn't. I wasn't. No.
A long time after. so who got you? Did somebody introduce you to Pink Floyd? Or
No, what happened was I read a book called Great Rock and Roll Scandals, and there was a chapter in it all about Syd Barrett, and that ignited my fascination with the Floyd and with Syd Barrett. And I went out and bought The Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and instantly, from the moment it started, I fell in love with that record. And then a week later, I had the chance to hear Dark Side of the Moon for the first time. And even though it was from a much later period of the Floyd and a very effectively a different band, you know, by 1973, they were a very different group from the early kind of psychedelic period from 1967. But I love the Dark Side of the Moon and the kind of spacier textures of that record, and yeah, that you know, just became my favourite band thereafter, and just kind of gradually explored their whole oeuvre, as the saying goes, or as the word goes even.
yeah, so, and I know from chatting to you before, because we've actually had a chat for, I think it's KOR radio as well.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So shout out to Radio Indie Lights on here. And I know that you're really into music, and you've got an extremely huge and eclectic record collection, which is really impressive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm obsessed with music. It's all I believe in, really, and I believe in it to such an unbridled intensity. So yeah, I tend to be pretty much all or nothing, to quote the Small Faces.
So what's your next song? Is the Debbie Harry and Blondie. So what
yes,
does this mean?
The particular, the reason that I kind of chose the songs I did in the order that I did was I wanted to pick a song from each decade. I mean, the furthest I go back in terms of kind of my musical loves would be the 60s. So a song from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. So this is one from the late 70s, from an album called Eat to the Beat. And I think it's one of the greatest songs of its era. And it's just got such a beautifully fresh and kind of revitalizing sound, and it's just got this glorious rush to it, a real kind of open-hearted, just like a life-affirming quality, and I just find it just such a joyful song, just such a song of joyful abandon. And yeah, shout out to Blondie, currently on tour at the moment with Johnny Marr, touring the enormodomes of the UK as we speak.
Oh, I would love to have been there. I'd love to have been at one of those gigs. I saw a couple of my friends posting about it. And she wrote this song while she was on set for Union City as well, which was really cool.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah, really cool. So I think we'll go into Blondie and James as well. That was Blondie and Union City.
Union City Blue.
Sorry. I'm thinking of the film Union City. She wrote that on set of the film, I think so. So as you said, it was from Eat the Beat in 1979, the studio album. And it was co-written by Nigel Harrison with Debbie Harry.
That's right, Blondie's bass player.
Yeah. I think collaborations are great. So, yeah, it's a great choice. I really like Blondie. So what got you into Blondie? Was that one of your first?
No, actually, I came to Blondie quite late in the day. I think it was the Auto American album I heard and loved. There's a cluster of I think some of their best work on that record, like Rapture, a song called Angels on the Balcony, and Do the Dark. Yeah, it's a really, really great record. Very, very stylistically very diverse. Mm-hmm. And I'd heard Eat to the Beat. I'd kind of gone through a phase of just kind of gobbling up as much music as I could, because when you don't have, I hadn't really grown up with a in a very musical environment. I didn't have elder siblings or parents that were kind of around that were really into music. My mum was into music, but she wouldn't have had a very broad sphere musically. So I kind of just went on a vast music buying splurge in my late teens and early 20s, and just caught up on a lot of music that I hadn't heard, but that I was just kind of taking chances on. Right from the psychedelic period right up through glam rock and punk and post-punk and just kind of shooting in the dark and just trying to avail of as much buried treasure as I could. I mean, some of it had been quite successful, but when you're kind of combing back through the mists of time trying to find music that you hadn't been alive when it was released, you're approaching it purely as a fan. There's no attendant hoopla, which is actually one of the lovely things that you're not coming to it via the media or via a press spin or anything like that. It's just, do you love it or not? That's really all it comes down to.
Were you already playing music at this stage?
Yeah, well, I'd started kind of striving towards sound in my mid-teens. And discover the Smiths. That was really the first. The Pet Shop Boys were the first music that I loved, but the band that made me want to form a band was the Smiths. Getting to hear them, even though it was unfortunate, it was years after they'd split up. So the first experience I really had, where I saw a band, I'm trying to think. It was, it took me a long time to actually find bands that were still around. Most of them had actually reformed by the time that I'd gotten into them. But yeah, I just fell in love with the Smiths and kind of just went from there.
And that kind of takes us into our next song, which is the Smiths.
How appropriate!
What a
how
nice
appropriate!
hook.
Yeah, well, the Smiths, they're one of those bands that are renowned for the quality of their B-sides, and this is one of the less heralded B-sides. It's my favourite Smiths song. It's a song called Unlovable, which unfortunately hasn't really had a very hasn't really been. I don't think it's been the recipient of enough love over the years. So we're going to give it some love today.
Yeah, here we go with Smiths and Unlovable.
Tell me I because I am. But I know that you would like me if only you could see me, if only you could meet me. I don't have much in my life, but take it, it's yours. I don't have much in my life, but take it, it's yours. All the way.
That was Unlovable by the Smiths. So I know. Do you want to tell us about the song?
Oh yeah, well, I just love it so much. I mean, ironically, for a song entitled "Unlovable," it's such a lovable song. It has this glide to it. You know, musically, it just has this flow and this glide that I love, that just kind of washes over you. Which is quite at odds with the lyrical content, which is, you know, kind of Morrissey bemoaning his lonesome lot. But I just think it's one of Johnny Marr's most beautiful compositions, and I dearly wish it had been included on The Queen instead. I think it would have made it an even better record. It was recorded during the same sessions.
So it was the Smiths that made you want to get into music and form
Yeah.
bands. So what was your first band? Or
First band, well, it took, well, I mean, that was the problem really. I was such a misfit growing up, and that I just couldn't find any like. I mean, that's the thing. Like, a band is essentially a gang of. Generally, it's a collection of misfits together. But I was so much of a misfit, I couldn't find fellow misfits. So that was actually, so initially I wasn't able to form a band. I had to go out and try and play solo and try and find ways to advance the cause musically, and gradually kind of, you know, strived and sort of what's the word, sort of paddled my way towards I suppose the first band that I was in that got, you know, significant airplay would have been Session Mods. And we were together we were only together for a year, but we had 3 radio hits in this country, and that was kind of that was great to, you know, to actually be in a band that was receiving, you know, support at radio, and then when that band came to an end, I just wrote an entirely new set of material, an entirely new
so your sound changed.
Yeah, well, it did, because I suppose in that band that was much more of a, it was like it was a collaborative affair, and it was sort of, I was kind of trying to shoehorn my vision into someone else's vision, which was actually, it made for really interesting results, because you know, we're both very different people, so we ended up with something that was very unlikely and very incongruous, and something that otherwise wouldn't have been constructed that way. But with my own project, with Keeley, you know, having been able to found this band myself and kind of form this band myself, and having my own kind of musical and conceptual outlook, and a very strong idea underpinning it. I was very certain about what I wanted to do and the form that I wanted it to take. Unfortunately, I found a wonderful producer, Alan Maguire, and fantastic bandmates, Marty, Tim and Martin, and a lovely label, and it's just kind of all grown from there.
And Keeley, your fourth song choice today, Super Furry Animals and Ice Hockey Hair.
Oh, yes.
We're going to be going into this very soon, so I think we've only got about a minute to chat, but we can pick it up again after the break. So this is Keeley from the band Keeley and the Keeley Chronicles on Dublin City 103.2 FM. And we're going to go into Keeley's fourth song choice, which is Super Furry Animals and Ice Hockey Hair.
Saturday Brunch on 103.2 Dublin City FM. Presented by me, Alana Brunton, from 1 to 2 p.m. Have a magazine-style Saturday afternoon with interviews ranging from current affairs to entertainment. To feature on the programme, please email saturdaybrunch@dublincityfm.ie. Saturday Brunch, every Saturday, 1 to 2 p.m.
Tune in, baby, to the only real rock and roll program on the earth. I'm talking about Little Steven's Underground Garage right here on 103.2 Dublin City FM every Saturday afternoon from 3 to 5. Come join our rock and roll dance party in the Underground Garage.
All right. Hi, this is Danny Duggan. Hoping you can catch up with me on Saturdays between 6 and 7 p.m. for all types of mostly underplayed soul music. Soul Seeking on Saturdays, 6 to 7.
You chicks and fellas, dig the sound of a soul street. Night moves.
You can join me, Derek McCarthy, on a unique musical journey every Sunday night, 9 till 10 p.m. Night Moves on 103.2 Dublin City FM.
I sure remember the night moves.
103.2 Dublin City FM. Music programmes produced and presented by those with an inside track.
Hello and welcome back to Dublin City 103.2 FM. You're listening to Off the Record. My name's Louisa Moss and my guest today is Keeley from the band Keeley, and we're having really, really cool and lovely chats and great music.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So just before we went into the ads there, we heard Super Furry Animals and Ice Hockey Hair, which came out in 1998.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, I think it's one of the greatest singles of all time, and it's an astonishing song. I mean, it's sonically, it's just wild. You know, it I think it's like it's their modus operandi, in its most extreme state, because it's the guitar sounds are so brilliantly kind of psychedelic and fuzzy and overdriven, and really trebly, and lyrically it's bizarre, you know, kind of story of I think it's got something to do with ice hockey players. It's sort of it's just, you know, one of Griff Rhys' most kind of zany sort of mind melting lyrics. And yet they managed to have their biggest hit with it. And it's one of those things, I think it's they were on record as saying that they never want to have a top 10 single. And I don't think they were being elitist. I think it was just a case of they didn't want to have this sort of this weight hanging around their necks of this one song that would dominate their career, and that they would be expected to try and repeat the success of, and having it sort of overshadow the rest of their brilliant discography. So what happened with that song was that it was a hit, it was a big hit, but it charted at number 11, and I love that. It's like, imagine a band saying, you know, we don't want to have a top 10 hit, and they ended up having a number 11 hit. It's like, it's just what you'd want, you know, to be successful, but not to experience, not to have one song overshadow the rest of your material. And so yeah, so I just think it's a brilliant song, and it's a really brave you know, creative step to make music that is that full on and that extreme and that kind of wonderfully colourful and wild, and that doesn't in any way kowtow to the industry or to the sort of principles, that the corporate principles that underpin a lot of the music biz malaise.
Yeah, I suppose like there's trying to balance it with making money, because you know it's a job as well, isn't it? So I suppose that's
well, like that's the thing. It's like trying to hit that sweet spot between being successful and being able to do what you love for a living, but not having to dilute what you're doing, and it's just trying to hit that sweet spot. And I think the Superfruits hit that sweet spot. Yeah,
that's a great track. So that was your track from the 1990s. We're
That's
going
right.
through the decades. So the next one's from the 2000s, and it's The Vines.
Oh yes, okay, The Vines. God, well, from the last track, which was very long and kind of sprawling, this is one of the shortest songs you'll hear. It's I think it clocks in at something like 1 minute 53 seconds. It's really short, but it is so beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are with The Vines and AS3.
In the early morning, underneath the autumn shade, I don't need no more reminding of the day. Now the leaves are falling, and the sun won't be around, and the words I am singing to the clouds.
That was The Vines and AS3, and that was Keeley, our special guest today on Off the Record, her 5th song choice. And that was from the album Melodia that was released in 2008, and it was their 4th album.
That's right, and thank you so much for playing it, for allowing me to play it. It's I've never heard that song on the radio before. It was never a single, but I think it's a prime example of what the Vines do so well, and what a lot of people who perhaps would have only be familiar with the more raucous kind of grungy sort of tracks that wouldn't be perhaps aware that they have this whole other side to their songwriting, which is this harmony drenched, kind of very melodic, very very kind of dreamy kind of pop side to their music that is a beautiful kind of underbelly to the more harsh kind of raucous kind of riff-tastic rock and roll stuff. Yeah.
So that was the 2000s. We're going to move into the 2010s now. Is it the 2010s? Is that what we call them? I suppose we do.
Yeah, I think no one was quite sure what to call them, so we didn't really call them anything. We just waited for the decade to elapse, and then we were kind of breathed a sigh of relief, and then started referring to, although I haven't heard anyone refer to this as the 20s yet, because I think it has connotations of the Charleston and whatever went on in the 1920s.
So your track from the 2010s was Days.
Oh wow!
From the album Days, sorry, and it's Real Estate and Easy.
Yeah, this is just a pure bliss out if ever there was one.
Mm-hmm.
When we
was Real Estate with Easy, and that was Keeley's 6th song choice for Off the Record today on Dublin City FM. And that's from the album Days that was released in 2011.
That's right, yeah.
So that was your favourite album of the last 10 years?
Yeah, well, it was just hearing that record by chance, or perhaps by, ethereal design. I was in a record store in Germany, and I heard this beautiful swirling sound wafting over the speakers, and I just instantly knew I have to have that record in my life. I knew that I needed to experience it and kind of go on a journey with it, and thereafter got the record, fell in love with it, saw them live, and I love what they do. I know they can be quite divisive because some people find them a little bit samey, but I love the textures in their sound. They've just got this really blissful, serene quality and quite very melancholy quality as well. And a lot of their songs are quite tied up with memory and nostalgia and a sense of loss and of I suppose a sense of kind of mourning for lost childhood and things like that. It's very, very beautiful music.
Talking about mourning, it is beautiful music. I just wanted to ask you quickly about your blog. I can't say quickly, but we don't have
absolutely go ahead.
Such a short.
Ask away.
How did you come across the topic, or what was it that sparked your interest? Because it's a huge piece of work and it's a brilliant piece of work.
Thank you.
It's brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Remembered.
Well, what happened was I had always had an interest in true crime my whole life, and I was working in a library at the time, and every morning on my way to work I would read a book. I'd bring a book with me to read, and I'd gotten this true crime book called Missing Presumed by Alan Bailey. Alan Bailey had been the national coordinator for Operation Trace, which was a think tank devised to try and establish links between the cases of the disappeared, the vanishing triangle, a suspected certainly the victims of a suspected serial killer, but trying to establish if there were links between those victims who had all disappeared, but whose remains had not been unearthed. So it was through reading that and coming towards the very end of that book, and there was a very small chapter, only about 5 or 6 pages, on a person named Inga Maria Hauser, who wasn't, one of the kind of the main cases in the book. Her photos wasn't on the front cover, but something about her story spoke to me, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. And thereafter, I started working on what became part 1 of the Keeley Chronicles, and posted it online. And to my amazement, it went viral the first day that I posted it. And 6.5 years later, I've basically spent the past 6.5 years investigating Inga's case, documenting, chronicling it online, and trying to delve into every aspect and trying to tell the world about who she was, and it taking shape also in a very creative way, and her becoming the subject of all of the songs that I write and all of the songs that we play as a band.
It's amazing. So I would tell people, go and check out the Keeley Chronicles, look it up. It's a brilliant blog, and as Keeley says, the inspiration for the 2 EPs that are out.
Yeah, 2 EPs and a glut of forthcoming further work.
Yeah. So we're going to go into your next track, and then I think we can come back to the Keeley Chronicles again after that, which is the Darling Buds and Jump In.
If there's something round the corner, open up your eyes. Too late to worry about it, and you, me, everybody likes a mystery. The river's always running too fast to swim. Stones are never thin enough to skim. Close your eyes and jump in.
And that was the Darling Buds and Jump In. So do you want to tell us about that song?
Yeah, I'll jump in to say that, that's one of I think that was my favourite single that was released last year. And I really love the Darling Buds, and I'm really so excited that we're going to be opening for them in London later this year. We're going to be playing with them in October at the Islington O2 Academy. So that's one of the several support slots. Actually, our very next gig is going to be in London, opening for a band called Sea Fever at the 229 venue in London. And Sea Fever is like a Mancunian supergroup, consists of members of New Order, Section 25, Johnny Marr's band, and Marion. And it'll be the first time that we, Keeley, have ever actually done a support slot to anyone. So, yeah, really looking forward to that.
It's fantastic.
It's June 17th. if anyone's going to be in London on the 17th of June, bliss out, don't
Where
miss
do we
out.
get tickets?
You get tickets from a website called Dice and a website called, I think it's called C Tickets. But yeah, if you just put Sea Fever 229 or Sea Fever Keeley 229 into search engine, it'll take you right there. It's all at your fingertips.
Fantastic. Have you got a gig coming up in Dublin as well? You guesting with someone else too?
Well, we just played we just played out just literally the other night at the Grand Social. It was our kind of big our first gig of the year, actually. We headlined the Grand Social for the first time, and that was just such a thrill. It was just such a joyous night. So much had gone into the night in terms of like preparing for it and rehearsing and promoting and everything. So we got, it had such a lovely crowd and such a beautiful reaction, considering how many new songs we played. And we're still a very new band, effectively. Due to the pandemic, we've actually only done 4 gigs. So yeah, we played there the other night. So we actually, our next gig won't be until, our next Irish gig won't be until July. We play in Cork. I haven't actually announced it yet, but I suppose I'm announcing it now. We played the Crane Lane Theatre in Cork on the 9th of July. You heard it here first, exactly. But we don't have any Dublin gigs for the foreseeable future. Now we're going to be. I think it's really important that bands don't overplay their hometown, and just kind of make it as special as possible, So our next gig is in London on the 17th of June with Sea Fever.
Okay, that's cool. Very cool. And your last song choice is Never O'Clock.
Oh yeah.
So we're kind of going to maybe go back to the Keeley Chronicles as well.
Yeah, actually that's a really good idea because it'll tie in kind of perfectly. This perhaps it seems maybe a tad arrogant to play one of my own songs.
No, not at all.
But you've been so supportive of our songs on your show, and I suppose I kind of just thought that if I was to pick a song from each decade, which is what I've done, that picking a song from this decade, it probably would make sense to pick one of our own, perhaps for people who might not have heard Keeley before. So yeah, it's off our second EP, Echo Everywhere, and we're going to be having new single coming out later on this month. But this, I think, it just there's a kind of a melancholy quality, a very, very atmospheric quality to it that I just think sums up what we do really well.
Okay, that's really cool. So your new single is out on May the 27th, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be out on the 27th of May.
Okay, so look out for Keeley's single on May the 27th. So we are coming up to the end of the show. I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure having Keeley here on Off the Record on Dublin City 103.2 FM. I want to thank Dave Sullivan, who has been our sound engineer today, who's done an absolutely fantastic job. We've had a few issues, but it was he fixed everything for us. He's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Dave.
Nice one, Dave.
So we're going to play out, and well, our last song is Keeley and Never O'Clock. So goodbye from me. I'll see you next week. Bye.